Welcome to Soil Smarts Video 3, Digging into Soil Cleanup. DTSC has created this educational series about the soil cleanup of chemicals to local background levels at NASA and DOE areas of the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. These videos are part of a package of materials to help inform the public about the challenges related to ensuring completion of cleanups. You can access the entire series on our website. In this video, we will talk about how the chemical cleanup to background levels for NASA and DOE soils differs from DTSC's standard risk-based approach for environmental cleanups. More information can be found on our website. In this image, we see an example site that has similar topography as Santa Susana. There is a structure near the top of a hill that represents a source area for chemical contamination. Samples are collected throughout the source area, including locations downhill to account for potential transport of contaminants. In this example, the size of the circle represents the concentration of a chemical. The larger the orange circle, the higher the concentration. First, let's consider the approach taken on a typical site in California, where risk assessment is used to determine how the site is cleaned up. In this example, we would consider the outlined area to be representative of an exposure area. This is the area that a receptor, such as a future resident, would be in regular contact with. When we do risk assessment, we typically calculate an exposure point concentration, or EPC, which is the estimate of the average concentration that a person would have contact with over the exposure duration, which is assumed to be 26 years for a resident. That calculated EPC is then compared to the cleanup goal to see if a person would be exposed to more than the acceptable risk. If the EPC is greater than the health protective cleanup goal, targeted soil cleanup would remove the highest concentrations of contamination. The remaining concentrations would be below the health protective cleanup goal. So that is DTSC's typical approach within the state of California and US EPA's approach nationwide. In that scenario, the site is approved for unrestricted land use based on the results of the risk assessment. The cleanup of soils at the NASA and DOE areas is based on a cleanup to levels consistent with local background. The Administrative Orders on Consent, or AOCs, include a confirmation sampling protocol that outlines a not-to-exceed cleanup approach. So here, we have the same scenario with the same concentrations of the same chemical, only now we are using the not-to-exceed approach to evaluate if any soil removal is needed. The cleanup goal is the lookup table value, which is meant to represent local background levels. In a not-to-exceed cleanup, any detection above the lookup table would require soil removal. If the lookup table value is 5 milligrams per kilogram and the detection is 5.1 milligrams per kilogram, that soil would have to be removed. There is no averaging of concentrations. In this scenario, there is significant soil removal based on the individual sample locations with a single chemical concentration above the lookup table. Remember, for this cleanup to background levels, the lookup table values are not risk-based values, so there is no consideration given to the future land use, exposure frequency, exposure duration, or even the toxicity of the chemical. There are lookup table values for more than 130 chemicals. If a single chemical exceeds the lookup table, soil removal is required. Many of the lookup table values are well below health protective screening levels. Now that is of course by design, as we are doing a cleanup to background, but it should be highlighted that the not-to-exceed approach will require large-scale removal of soils without any measurable protection of human health. This will also result in permanent damage to this land that is sacred to Native peoples and the habitat of several endangered species at Santa Susana Field Laboratory. Also, recent evaluations have shown that the not-to-exceed approach would require significant removal of soils that are consistent with local background, as demonstrated in the Soil Smarts video number 4 when the test is wrong. DTSC has determined that the not-to-exceed approach does not accurately evaluate when concentrations in soil are consistent with local background. DTSC has developed a proposed approach that considers multiple lines of evidence, which is stronger and more reliable. The workshop presentation that brings all of these concepts together is available on our website if you'd like to learn more. Additionally, we recommend you review the companion Soil Smarts Fact Sheet number 3, Digging into Soil Cleanup, and the associated frequently asked questions. If you have any questions, please reach out to the team using Stream, the SSFL tool for response, engagement, and answer management. Thank you for watching this video.